UK's next immigration shakeup. Danish-style reforms emerge amid growing debate. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood is preparing a major shakeup of the UK's immigration and asylum framework, one that borrows inspiration from a country known for one of the toughest systems in all of Europe, Denmark. Something big is coming to the United Kingdom's immigration system. A quiet storm, building behind closed doors, one that could reshape how Britain defines fairness, asylum, and belonging. The kind of change that doesn't just adjust the rules, but rewrites the entire conversation. Today, we dive deep into what could become the UK's next immigration shakeup. The Home Secretary's plan, according to senior officials, is not a minor policy tweak. It's a full-scale re-engineering of how Britain approaches protection, migration, and integration. Inside the Home Office, teams have been quietly studying Denmark's model, line by line, case by case, looking at what works, what deters, and what divides. And what they've found is a system built not on open doors, but on controlled thresholds. In Denmark, refugees rarely receive permanent protection. Instead, they are granted temporary residence permits. When the Danish government deems that their home country is safe, they can be sent back. Even those who stay must meet strict conditions: stable work, clean records, and clear contribution to society. Family reunification? That's an even higher wall. Both partners must be at least 24. The partner living in Denmark must not have claimed benefits for 3 years. They must post a financial guarantee, and both must pass a Danish language test. It's not just bureaucracy, it's philosophy. Denmark believes that integration must be earned, not assumed. But there's another, far more controversial layer. If a refugee lives in what the Danish government calls a parallel society, an area where over half the residents come from non-Western backgrounds, they are barred entirely from family reunification. Entire housing blocks can even be sold off or demolished under that law. The government says it's about promoting unity and integration. Critics say it's a quiet form of exclusion, a line drawn through communities by ethnicity. Now, imagine that model translated to Britain, because that's exactly what the Home Office is now studying. Back in the UK, the Refugee Family Reunion Scheme, which once allowed spouses and children to join refugees here, was quietly suspended in September. The message was clear: new rules are coming. And when Mahmood stands before Parliament later this month, she is expected to unveil a new framework, one inspired by Denmark's balance of control and deterrence. Her goal? To reduce the incentives that draw people to the UK while making it easier to remove those who have no legal right to remain. But this isn't just policy. It's politics at its most strategic. At the Labour Party conference, Mahmood promised to do whatever it takes to regain control of Britain's borders. Those words were not casual. They were deliberate. A message to voters who've lost faith in the system, and a signal to Reform UK supporters that Labour can also be tough on migration. Denmark's Social Democrats did exactly that years ago. Faced with rising populism and public anxiety about migration, they toughened their stance and won back power. They neutralized immigration as a weapon used by the far right, reclaiming it as a centrist issue of responsibility and national balance. Now, some inside Westminster believe Mahmood is preparing to do the same. The reasoning is simple. If Labour controls the border narrative, they control the election. And for many senior ministers, that's worth the risk. The numbers speak for themselves. Over 1,269 migrants crossed the English Channel in small boats within just 2 days, the latest spike after weeks of bad weather. Each crossing reignites public anger. Each image of a crowded dinghy challenges the government's credibility. And each policy delay gives Reform UK more political oxygen. For Mahmood, adopting Danish-style precision isn't just about immigration, it's about trust. She knows that without control, there is no compassion. Without public confidence, even the fairest asylum decision feels unjust. But not everyone in her own party agrees. And that's where the story gets complicated. On one side, moderate Labour MPs in the Midlands and the North, the so-called red wall seats, say that a stricter asylum system is overdue. They argue their constituents no longer trust the process, that too many promises have been broken, that voters want to see not hostility, but honesty, a system that works fairly, firmly, and visibly. Yet, on the other side, voices from Labour's progressive wing are sounding alarms. Former frontbencher Clive Lewis called the Danish approach hardcore, warning that copying it risks echoing far-right talking points. MP Nadia Whittam described the Danish rules on parallel societies as undeniably racist, saying that it's a dead end, morally, politically, and electorally. Their concern is that in trying to win back one audience, Labour could lose another, sacrificing values for votes. Still, the push toward a new model continues. Mahmood's office believes that selective restriction, not total closure, can rebuild public trust. And within government circles, the phrase Danish calibration has become shorthand for a policy of tough compassion, humane in language, firm in execution. Meanwhile, officials from the UK have already visited Copenhagen, learning how Denmark keeps asylum claims at historic lows while incentivizing voluntary returns. There, migrants can even receive up to the equivalent of £24,000 to go back home, a policy controversial but effective. Britain has no plan to match those figures, but insiders admit they're watching closely. The logic is simple and unsettling. Fewer arrivals, faster removals, and stricter qualifications for staying.
Yet beneath these technical reforms lies something deeper, a debate about identity. What does it mean to be a nation that welcomes, but also limits? A country built by migration, now redefining what migration means. These are not easy questions, but they're the questions shaping the UK's next immigration chapter. For the Home Secretary, this is about restoring balance. She sees the current system as stretched, unfair, and misunderstood, rewarding those who game it and punishing those who follow it. To her, Danish-style structure offers something Britain has lacked for years: clarity. A system that says, if you qualify, you'll be protected. If you contribute, you'll belong. But if you break the law or refuse to integrate, your stay will not be permanent. It's a philosophy that merges enforcement with expectation. And it's one that will define how the world views Britain, not just as a nation of laws, but as a nation of limits. This is the UK's next immigration shakeup. Danish-style reforms emerging amid growing debate. Every generation faces its version of this question. How open should a nation's heart be? And how firm should its borders remain? For Britain, the answer has always been complex, built on compassion, shaped by history, and tested by reality. But in the months ahead, that balance will be tested again. Will the United Kingdom follow Denmark's example, or carve a path that keeps control without losing its conscience? Whatever happens next, One thing is certain. The decisions made now will define the next decade of British immigration. Not just for those seeking a new life here, but for everyone who calls this island home. If you found this breakdown valuable, don't scroll away. Subscribe to UK Immigration Express, your trusted voice for UK visa updates, immigration news, and Home Office reforms that affect your future. Turn on notifications, because when the new immigration rules are announced, you'll want to hear it here first. Share this video with someone who needs to stay informed, and together, we'll keep you one step ahead of the system. Until next time, stay safe, stay compliant, and stay aware.